An interesting truth about the underworld wasn't the fact that it was essentially an entire dimension dedicated to the punishment of humankind, but rather the simple fact that it was very boring. As it turns out, the true punishment of the place below was bureaucracy. After humanity created office cubicles, whatever forces of hell had come up with was just simply not punishing enough. The amount of time the devil had to hear, "Well, actually it's something new every day, I love it here," had been so frustrating for the being of pain that decades that followed, hell had frozen over. As he pondered what to do. The result was that the human souls were now eternally forced to work pen-pusher jobs, while the primary demons acted as managers and supervisors. It was incredibly boring, but with the invention of the internet, humanity had not only seen the worst, but also experienced the worst. Left eternally working in a boring office was really the only solution. While Satan was pleased, his demons were not. But there was one dark cloud of hope every demon had. The various cults and rituals humans spread. Through sheer human stupidity, the evil rituals that would summon the most vile creatures of hell had become esoteric new witch trends for stupid hippies who didn't realize the dark powers they were dabbling with on social media. While infuriating, especially to demons of the sin of wrath, the others absolutely loved it. So, while the demons of the other deadly sins lined up to be summoned, wrath demons let out their frustrations in upper management on the poor souls that had to work under them. This had led to an uneasy peace in the underworld. And today, the form you had signed 50 years ago to be summoned by succubus ritual had finally been approved. You were Lilith. Liliths were lower succubi who were incredibly attractive and evil, but lacked the soul-sucking ability of actual succubus demons. Though in return, your physical abilities were enhanced, so who cares really? You could lift a car. Your demon form included long red hair that reached down to your butt, a face so beautiful that even ancient Greeks could not turn it into a marble statue, and a body to match up with that. Overall, you looked like the perfect woman if it wasn't for your eyes. Like all Liliths, you suffered from an advanced form of polychoria. The condition was normally characterized by a person having more than one pupilla opening, but for Liliths, it was more extreme. It were essentially two eyeballs squished into a single socket. To humans it looked very unnerving, but to you it was normal. You had been sitting in front of your manager's office, filing your nails, dressed in a proper suit, your hair pulled up into a ponytail, when a heavy demon of gluttony slammed a file on your desk. You eyed the overweight monstrosity. "Approve," was all he said before waddling off. Curiously, you took the file into your hands and read it, eyes widening happily. Apparently a small cult in suburban America town had been performing rituals that almost worked but always were slightly off, and you had been officially approved of being the demon they would summon should they succeed for the first time. Overjoyed, you slammed both fists on your desk. A soul in a suit looked at you curiously. "Back to work! Time is money!" you shouted. Making himself small as possible, he quickly huddled away. Though, If you had known it would take months for you to be summoned, you wouldn't have celebrated so soon. Silently, you had been observing the organization's activity. These people sucked. While they somehow managed to use life-prolonging magic on their stupid little talismans, it was so sloppy that not only would the user still feel pain of injuries, but also would still eventually go down if enough punishment would have been received, like getting run over by a car multiple times, or getting shot. Was this a prank? This had gone so far that you stormed into your manager's office, demanding an explanation, though you were only met by confusion. As you showed the evidence you had collected, the demon chuckled, and just quickly dialed up the boss. You blushed. You respected the devil, and you didn't feel important enough for him to be called over this. But after being on hold for 3 days, he finally responded. And an exception was to be made, simply due to cult incompetence. And 3 days later, you were suddenly summoned. Sadly, though, it was a possession ritual, so most of your powers would be locked away. Still, you awoke inside of a human body that had been lying unclothed on a blood-covered stone altar inside the cult's abandoned church base. You looked around. The red-cloaked figures all stared at you curiously, wondering if they finally did it. You turned your head to look at their leader. You snapped your right hand, which pulled the cult's mask towards you. The people gasped as you grabbed him by the throat. Angrily, you shouted, "I know it's cliché to say this, but do you have any idea how long I've been waiting for this?" You growled, before angrily shoving the man to the ground. Everyone now was quite intimidated. Truthfully, none of them actually expected the ritual to work. You sighed, looking down at yourself, and you smiled. "Well, at least you found a cute vessel for me." "Oh, it worked! We did it!" shouted someone. Rolling your eyes, you began to shout, spit, and smile at the cultists present. You were genuinely upset with the work they have been doing. After you were done chewing them out, some of them were left crying as they repeatedly apologized. Only one was still standing, seemingly unfazed by your tirade. Ironically, it was the one cult member who had caught your interests while you were still in the below, observing the cult. You sat up on the altar, legs crossed, with an angry expression. "Oh, I promise, my lady, we really tried," said the master dramatically. He was huddled down on all fours, desperately apologizing to you. This definitely wasn't what he expected. "Whatever," you scoffed. "What do guys even want? With your sloppy rituals and ramblings, it didn't even make sense down there. Is it wealth? Power? More cliché shit?" He remained quiet. Okay, so you were interrupted by your stomach suddenly grumbling. Are you serious? You didn't even feed her?" you said, genuinely disappointed. The ritual said to let her fast." "Feast! You numbskull!" you shouted. "What?" "You were supposed to feed her. Do you have any idea how much strain a possession is putting on her body? She needs energy." The master gasped. "If you don't want her to die and me going back to hell, you better give me some good food this instant." Still on all fours, the cultist master crawled towards the big guy. "Brother Velseb," he stuttered. Please, could you make some food for our honored guest? The giant looked towards you. Of course. Should I deliver it to you, or? No. I come with you. This will give your friend some time to think and clean this place up. It's filthy. Nose held up high, you jumped off the altar. But as your feet touched the stairs leading towards the surface, a cultist raised his finger. Miss Lilith? You turned to look at him with disgust. Wouldn't it be better if you wore some clothes? Once again you snapped your fingers. Invisible hands now forced the poor cultist out of his uniform. As you wrapped yourself inside of the red robe, you noticed how pleasantly toasty it was. The man, meanwhile, was left in his underwear. I guess I deserve this, he muttered. Following Brother Velseb, you were led to his van. He had opened the back door for you only to immediately close it. I apologize, force of habit. You smiled, for the first time. Oh, I know. I've read about your work. It's rather pleasing. Like a gentleman, he opened the passenger door for you, before going to the driver's side and sitting down. The car was turned on, and you looked at him. So, who does the translating in your cult? Your people are even worse at rituals than Gwyneth Paltrow. And she sells the souls of her customers by accident. Bob gulped. I don't actually. I may be a higher-ranking member, but many things are a mystery to even me. My name is Bob, by the way. You sighed. Those magic tricks were fun, though. You chuckled in response. It's actually very simple stuff. I think you humans call it telekinesis? I guess. Right. So, who is this, Bob? You slapped at your body that you were possessing. We call her Sister Agatha. She's, well... Yes? She's the only female cult member who still has her V-card, so she was kind of the only option we had. You blushed a little, though that was more a reaction of the body you were possessing rather than your own. I see. You know, V-cards really aren't a requirement for summoning, but... it's been millennia since I had been untouched. You giggled. The other succubi would be so jealous. Why is that? You leaned up to him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. You humans stopped appreciating it. You make fun of it. But we still care about it. That's why those rituals say they require an untainted woman. But it never is really needed. Bob blushed heavily as you whispered into his ear. You then narrowed your eyes. And if you tell anyone about this, I'll rip your spine out and turn it into a sword. Bob bit his lower lip. Oh, you like that, don't you? Good boy. You know, I'm a fan of your work. Just the eating part is a little uncouth. But I guess anything to quiet down those voices in your brain, huh? How do you know about that? You smirked. Did you know that we see you when you're sleeping, and we know when you're awake? Bob snorted, as you retreated to a more comfortable sitting position. Bob drove you into town. More specifically, the slightly rancid Boys and Grills burger place, where he was employed at. You adored human food. You definitely understood the influx of power the gluttony demons had attained ever since fast food had become a thing. Following Bob inside Boys and Grills, he put on his chef's hat and an apron. I never had to appease the palate of a demon, so this will be interesting. You licked your lips. Tell me, Bob, before you order, Sister Agatha, is she a vegetarian? I don't know. Maybe? You sighed. Ugh, how boring. Still, though, give me a meat platter. Bob blushed. Yes, madam, he shouted excitedly before vanishing inside the kitchen. You then sat there for some time, until you realized the stool you were sitting on spun, so you did that for a while. As the meat was sizzling, Bob leaned through the kitchen into the main room. So, what do you do now? I do what I was summoned for. Signing contracts and then going back down. Bob blinked. Right. I guess I just thought you'd cause mischief. That would be fun. You grinned. Fine. If you entertain me tonight, I guess I'll become a more permanent resident inside her head. But only as long as you people keep entertaining me. What were you thinking? You placed your head on the counter and grinned at him. Few ideas? I mean, I can always retreat to her subconscious to give her control back of her body and be a little voice in the back of her head. That should be entertaining for a bit. Bob soon brought a huge tablet filled with steak, bacon, cheese, and barbecue sauce to you. You looked at it as your mouth watered, hands hovering over the delicious-smelling meat. Bob gulped as you grabbed the food with both hands, ripping and tearing into it. The man's eyes widened with excitement as he blushed. Sister Agatha was normally such a proper little thing, and now she was right in front of him, wearing nothing but an open cultist robe, revealing pretty much everything. Quite literally digging into the food that he had made. He scratched the back of his head to soothe his emotions. The voices in his head were egging him on to follow his darkest desires. Meanwhile, big half-chewed chunks of beef quickly slid down your throat as your tongue savored the taste of the sweet barbecue sauce. Your hands covered in it, and grease. Your hands covered in barbecue and grease, you leaned back, satisfied. However, as Bob grabbed the platter to clean it, you lunged forward, grabbing his wrist. Wait. Remember when I said about entertaining me? Using your demonic strength, you pulled the heavy man onto the counter, shattering the plate on the ground in the process. You grinned as you climbed on top of him, and for a split second, you revealed your actual demonic visage, flickering it in place of the girl's body you possessed. Bob gasped. He had seen your real face for only a split second, but he was already completely infatuated by you. I want you to ravage this body, Bob Velseb. Make her wake up with sore legs. He groaned as you licked over his face like a dog in heat, placing a finger into his mouth. Clean them, and don't bite. Don't want you to hurt this vessel. Not yet, at least. If you do, I'll be the only one leaving this building alive tonight. His tongue slowly began to rub over your skin as he lapped up the leftover barbecue sauce and grease. It took the enjoyer of long pick an incredible amount of composure to not immediately start biting down. Once you are clean and satisfied, you licked off his salvia from your hands before taking hold of his belt. But before we go to the main course, I shall devour millions of your potential offspring as an appetizer. Hey, thank you for watching my video until the end. If you're new here, I hope you stick around and watch a few more. But before I say goodbye, I'd like to remind you to like the video and subscribe. That really helps the YouTube algorithm. That's all. Hope you have a good day. Until next time. Bye!